Yo, yo, yo. Weed for the People podcast, episode 4. Look, the theme never changes. The real unsung heroes in this game are the ones staying on their feet. We got Jake here from No Till Kings. He's going to lay it down. We'll get into everything that they do. Super impressive guy. Him and his partner, Young. I'm going to do a little monologue this time, change it up. Not quite a fuck you rant, but I got a little bit to say. You know, look, the industry's in a whole new place. Putting all the burden on the retail has just caused a lot of blood in the street out there. It's unfortunate. We're seeing a lot of companies fold. I spend a lot of my day looking at dispensaries that are busted up, people just walking away, handing over keys. Look, the ones that are friendly, we're working it out. We had some fun with some lenders today that think they got the power, but they don't. So that's been kind of fun. And look, this policy is not sustainable. It's not going to work. But what's really impressed me is the people that have been able to navigate it and survive. But I got to say this, the money is not fucking theirs. And they keep taking it. And this is a discriminatory policy based on what? Based on people that love this plant and love this industry, and they're always going to be here. And we're fighting to try to protect the culture. I'm not saying we hit it 100% right. I'm not saying it's always black and white. But one thing that I know for sure, the motherfucking government has fucked this thing up so bad. The anomalies in California are so fucking stupid. And right now, everybody's in survival mode. If you're winning, you're in survival mode. And if you're losing, look, you're out. There's a lot of good companies that are exiting. Of course, there's a lot of bloated, dumb fucking chads that got the shit kicked out of them. But we can't continue on like this. I don't know when California's going to cave on it. But before I open up the show and turn it positive, I just want to say, look, I got motherfucking auditors 4 days long sitting in my office. By the way, funny little story I'll tell on the opening. LA Times called today. And, they were just asking about the burner situation, glass house, whatever. And, you got to be careful that, we don't give them too much game on it. And they were like, well, why isn't the government doing anything about this? And by the way, I've been treating these auditors real nice, showing them around. I thought it was important that they met everybody in our office. And look, they're lower level guys, whatever. But I want to always put a human element to it. What they're doing is they're basically attacking humanity, and they're attacking working class, a lot of young kids. And I took them around the office yesterday. As I promised, I said a post, I'd do it. I did do it yesterday. And they met. And almost everybody they met had a great story. They were an intern. They were a receptionist. They were a bud tender. And we promoted so many people from within. Today, I did a little spice on it. LA Times calls me up. They want a few quotes or whatever. Who knows if they'll do a story. And they're asking what the government has to say about it, because I'm telling them what a fucking joke the program is. And I'm like, yo, hold up, right? So I walk into the room where the CDFTA is, boom, drop my fucking speakerphone. I'm like, yo, y'all on speakerphone. LA Times wants a motherfucking quote. And they looked at it like, what the fuck did this guy just do? And I was like, there you go, LA Times, no comment. So, we're having fun. Again, just talking a lot of shit today. The lenders think they had a lot of power in this game, right? But all these usurious loans, people are going out and then they don't want to work it out. And, we're trying to take over a few assets and they still want the kitchen sink. So, last little funny story, and we'll get into some positive stuff. I just said that scene from Pulp Fiction, why you trying to fuck me like a bitch, right? Marcellus only likes to be fucked by Mrs. Wallace. And I said, you know what? Samuel L. Jackson said it better than I could ever say it. So if you're surviving, I think the fun part is same thing. Landlord trying to big dick us again today. So talking shit to him. Anyway, look, just a little bit of a rant. I'm kind of all over the place. But the main thing that we want to focus on is the positivity. California has fucked this up royally. Who knows where they're going to fix it? It's just a matter of time. What we want to do here on this show, and I'm going to keep saying it and driving this point home, we want to uplift the guys that are surviving. We want to uplift guys that are focused on the customer and the product, and we want to tell their stories because these are the real motherfucking heroes in the game. And look, if anybody out there, No Till Kings personifies this story. I'm going to tell a quick little intro story on how we got to know each other. And then I'm going to start asking some questions. So, look, we've been working on the tax in Long Beach for a fucking while. Finally, we might, have an issue in there. We were hoping they were going to remove the cultivation tax. So I made an effort to go around and see everybody who was local. Rolled up in on their grow, 2 young men, bootstrap this shit. I'll let them tell their story. They had 2 rooms going, and they were just trying to use that money to get the next 2 rooms because they're passionate about the plant. They have a unique business model. And I was like, man, these motherfuckers, some young ass hustlers that love the plant, and they're making it, right? And these stories are super important. So I'm just going to open up the questioning with that, maybe a little monologue. We'll see how it went over. But anyway, we got Jake here from No Till Kings. What's your official title?
Yeah, I'm the co-owner and our head of operations at No Till Kings. I run our cultivation facility.
Cool. So I know you guys are based in Long Beach. How did that come to be that, you ended up, growing in Long Beach, and what was it like, getting through that process, getting your door open? And then I'll follow up on, like, even within that, you didn't have the funding, so you had to do the 2 rooms, bootstrap it, and then get everything else built out.
Yeah, so we're from San Diego, and I worked in the Prop 215 market down there for a while, running a shop, and I just knew I knew it was eventually going to go legal on the recreational side, because we had the Prop 215 like kind of gray market legal for a while. And after it actually got legalized in California in 2016, I just started to look and figure out where are places actually like licensing people. And San Diego just was not an easy place to do anything, because they just have a limit on their licenses. And like, this is stuff I've learned. I've learned so much along the way just to actually figure out the whole licensing process. But we ended up working with like a realtor. It was a whole shit show. Like, all the realtors tried to take advantage of people. And we ended up like realizing that Long Beach is an area that is like beneficial for getting the license, because they don't have it. They're only capping retail. And so that's kind of how we settled on Long Beach. I went all around the state. I looked at Sonoma, like Cathedral City, and like, I'm glad we didn't end up, out in the desert. Like, major respect to anyone doing it out there, but it's just tough to cultivate out there with all the heat. It's just so hot. And so we ended up on Long Beach, and then it was just a matter of trying to find like a suitable location where we could actually build a facility.
Yeah. So I just want to ask, the super unique part, I think, of your story is you might be the youngest guy that ever got a license. There was a real person, right? I'm sure there's been a few straw men throwing on some burners out there, but like, real person getting the license. Look, maybe you started at 18, maybe a little bit before. I think technically I'm not supposed to promote that, but hey, it's part of your story. We're going to speak the truth. But talk about what it's like being, now, you're 26 now?
Yeah.
I think I asked you before. So, but you basically applied when you were 21 years old, partner 20 years old. You had to turn 21 to apply. So, props to you on that. First of all, like, if you're out there and, you're young up and comer and you're trying to figure it out, like, these guys have paved the way. Look, age is obviously only a number, but nonetheless, like, how did it come to be at 21, you were able to apply and basically become an entrepreneur in one of the hardest industries on the planet today is California cannabis?
Yeah, it's been a very tough journey, as you've described. But basically, like, I personally actually got my medical card when I was 17. And so, and that's when I started cultivating legally, technically, on the Prop 215 time. You're supposed to have 6 plants, and, it looks like 6, right? And that's kind of how I started, was just trying to grow outdoors, just trying to read about it, like failing, trial and failure. And like, I grew probably like 17 or 18 plants that all just somehow one or another died, and they just did not make it over like maybe 6 or 8 months. And then I just ended up buying clones. Like, all the plants I was just popping, bag seed that I could find. And then I ended up buying some clones finally from a store, and I successfully, flowered those out. And at that, like, as just a true cannabis connoisseur, I just always wanted to be able to produce my own flower. And so just through trial and failure and many, many failures, I was able to finally harvest, my first successful crop. And after that, I just knew, like, wow, like, I can do this. Like, you can actually cultivate weed. It will grow into a flower. And after just, doing that and getting involved on the shop side in the Prop 215 time, there was just so many things involved, just building up what I've learned now. But after going through, everything in the store, just knowing, like having a grow that just got completely hit and just taken, like completely raided, I just knew that, like, I'm tired of looking over my shoulder, and like we need to find a way to get a license so that we can be as legit as possible. And yeah, so the youngest you can get a license is being 21, and it was just like all the timing worked out. Like, it's just like the right time. When I was like a junior in high school, I just knew that weed will be legalized recreational eventually. It had already, it had just been, it just got legalized in Colorado at that time, and like that it's coming. It's eventually going to get there. You don't know what it's going to look like or what it like. It was really just kind of diving off into to the deep end of the pool, trying to figure out how to get a license in the California market. Like, what are we even doing? Are we even going to do this? Like, and so.
And then how do you think at 21 that you didn't end up as an underling to somebody else, and or, a lot of the youngsters, and props to all the homies on the BM, stayed on the black market and just because it was an easier, way. What do you think in your constitution was, and the analogy I like to use on some of this stuff is there's a scene in Indiana Jones when he has to like take the leap of faith across the canyon. I like to kind of use that as a metaphor. But what do you think, like, and not to like compare yourself to your peers that are, the same age, but what do you think it was at 21 that you had maybe inside you that made you, you and your partner, that made you unique to really do it? Because you don't hear a lot of stories of people that went legal in their early 20s. Like, I can't think of anybody that I met that started as their own business owner in cannabis at 21. I think that's unique to No Till Kings. Would you attribute that to any certain part of your personality, or just fuck it, love for the plant, I'm going for it?
Yeah, it's both. It's like two things. It's like I truly love the plant, and that's like in order to cultivate cannabis, you have to love it. You must love the plant, because it's just such a difficult thing to actually cultivate high quality flower. And part of it is just like my work ethic. I started working when I was 14 years old at a sports store. I got like a work permit from my school, and I would work after school for like, 3 days a week when I was like 14. And once I got my driver's license, I was working, 3 to 5 days a week during the school year. And I just like, I always wanted to make money. I just like wanted to be able to buy my own stuff, like just be able to kind of be independent. And in that time, like when I started working, I didn't even smoke weed. I started smoking weed when I was like 16, which you shouldn't do, by the way.
You got we don't encourage underage smoking.
We don't encourage.
The story is the story, right? So just keep it real.
And so for me, I just like wanted to be able to drive, and so like have my driver's license, and because I got it when I was 16, and so I had coworkers, like I finally like found a weed plug, and I just I was able to, it just over like a couple years, like I just kind of like honed in that like I really do like cannabis. Like I don't drink at all, and so like I'm just a true cannabis connoisseur, and I eventually that kind of got me into growing. But it was just like like that, the work ethic of like working from 14 till 18 and a half at a job, and then going into like working at a cannabis shop, and dealing on all of the Prop 215 side, and then trying to cultivate on the Prop 215 side, which was just a nightmare, and especially in San Diego. But just all of that kind of culminated into, okay, now it is licensed. I am 21 now, or it's legal. And now there's places that are going to be issuing licenses, and we just got to figure out like, how do people get those? And like, the retail for us was just kind of off the table, because it was just like everywhere was a lottery, or you just had to have like you need a lot of money to get into the retail space, as well as the cultivation space. Everything takes a lot of capital. And it's just there's more opportunity to get a license in a retail or distribution or manufacturing than there is on the retail side, because the licenses are they're so limited on the retail side. And so for us, we knew we just wanted to cultivate, and that we wanted to create a brand. We wanted to farm in living soil, and we knew in order to actually do something, we have to be different. And so the whole goal from the beginning, when we were going to get our license, was we're going to farm in living soil, and it's going to be, something different than the market has right now on the legal side.
Yeah, no. So I want to ask you more about that. First of all, shout out, first job, Sporting Good, Big Five, Long Beach. So I was a little older, 16. It was a summer job, but I like the Sporting Good reference. So look, I know you guys are super small staff, which I always respect. That's how you got to run this game right now, really lean. But you got a lot of workers, and they're these little worms moving around in those pots. So that was the first time, really. I've seen it a little bit since and in some other states, but that was the first time I've really seen somebody on the indoor side of it, which makes you guys super unique. So, talk about your staff, the worms, and just organic in general, because I think it's super important, for the consumer and the bud tenders that, I hope are watching this, and we got some positive feedback, from both, that they're learning about the product. Talk about the organic side, and you did tell me that you recently got certified and what that process is, and everything about being organic and how that works, and why that, and without hitting anybody too hard, or if you want to, you can, why that is a superior product in your mind, to salts and other ways that people are growing.
Yeah, no. And so one major shout out to our team. We've got a really small team at No Till Kings. We're 8 people with, myself and my partner, and we're the 2 owners. And in addition to that, at our facility, we've got about, hundreds of thousands of worms, working in our living soil beds to actually, work the soil, to aerate it, to break down organic matter, and to help enrich the soil with all the worm castings that they produce. And yeah, it's one thing too that I really want to hit on is that we just got certified for OCal through California, and so we are the first indoor farm to be OCal certified, which is the comparable to organic standard that California is setting. There are other farms that are OCal certified, but we are the first indoor farm to be OCal certified. And what that entails really is we are being inspected just like the USDA organic inspection. However, that is a federal registration that cannot be applied to cannabis currently. And so using the term organic can't really be applied to cannabis products right now, unless they get this OCal certification. And even then, it is comparable to organic.
Right. It's a little gray. I've had some debates can it be on the label? Can you say it? I'm going to say it here. It's organic. And what I don't understand, again, we put cannabis in this certain class. So, somebody went to the trouble and the additional, efforts to do something unique, grow organically, bring something that's, better for the health of the consumer. And in the produce or agricultural world, you get the, little check mark with that. Here you get it. And then there's a debate on whether or not you could market it, which makes no sense at all, right? If you got the certification, you should be able to market it. It's just another stupid thing that's unique to cannabis. Again, it must be the federal issue. I know guys are kind of pushing the certification around. It's been an issue that's come up in our compliance, but definitely, something that doesn't, make any sense, to me at all. Look, obviously, we carry you in our stores. Feel free to, throw out, I know March and Ash, who I was real friendly with. I was talking to him, we are sharing notes. You're down there in San Diego because you built the following. Yeah. Feel free to go ahead and throw it out there, who you work with and throughout California and where No Till Kings, could be found, region stores, whatever, we're free flowing place. So go ahead and share a little bit about that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're in San Diego, a lot of love to March and Ash. They're got a heavy presence down there, and we're actually in a bunch of shops now. We're in like around 45 to 55 stores all throughout California. And on our website at notillkings.com, we've got a shop locator to find all the stores. And something new that we're actually doing now, it's just for LA area. We have like a delivery service that you can order No Till Kings on our website. And it really just helps us keep the flavors fresh if you're in an area that you can't get to a store, or the store's not close enough to you. We do have that option. It's just in LA. And so, we're really trying to, just be able to offer our flavors. If a shop might not have a particular flavor, we want to have everything available. And so it just launched like yesterday or today. So it is live right now, on our website. But yeah, like there's a couple stores up in NorCal, that we're in up in Big Sur, up at like a Big Sur Can Botanicals up there.
Nice. How do you for lack of a better way of putting it, kick your foot through the door of the purchaser? Obviously there's two steps to it, right? One, you got to get on the shelf, and then two, you need to get the education and the sell through. What's your process of, our gatekeeper, so to speak, was Bree. I think on this one, I can't remember exactly how we found each other, but somehow I think I had a common link, and it came by the grow. Just was super impressed with everything you were doing. By the way, funny story. I had agreed to a certain markup, and then when he hit I don't know if it was you and your partner, but they hit up purchasing. They did the standard one because I hadn't shared the message yet. And then there was a little like, what the fuck? And I was like, no. I'm going to come in and fix it, bro. And I seen where you guys were trying to go. And look, I would have bet early on when I saw it. Like I said, it was 2 rooms. And you guys have done a great job of using those 2 rooms to keep building and keep going. But how do you kick the door open, or that process of meeting the buyer? And then, I'll just ask that one question, so I don't ask a double question. But, what is your how did you end up in Big Sur, for example?
Yeah. With pretty much all the shops, like, shout out my partner. He really like has grinded to hit up as many stores as possible. And, it's really just like either like, especially in the beginning, just emailing or trying to call. Like, you call the store, you got to email this buyer. All right, we get the email, got to email them. All right, can you send us samples? Okay, you guys need a metric. Can we bring them to you? And then if they need a metric, we got to figure out, can our distributor get up to NorCal to get them these samples? And it's really just, about hitting up as many shops that we think we would do well in, because we are, trying to sell a premium product. And it's really just giving samples to the buyer, getting in touch with the right people at the store. And
then from there, so you get in the door, you want to get the sell through, what's your process of interacting with the bud tenders, doing the education? I'll ask you the IG next. Putting that aside, I enjoy watching the page, but what's that process of educating them so they know what they're selling? And I always say this, which is, we only want them recommending products that they believe in, because if they trick the customer, and it's fine to say, hey, this is a value product, this is what's in it, and that's fine. Or certain customers are stuck in their ways, but in so much as we have a shelf, the best we can, I do feel a responsibility through our bud tenders that we educate, and that not only do we want to sell good products as a philosophy, but also, like, if we're bullshitting the customer, or we're not pushing good products or quality products, they're not going to come back, because whatever was recommended, was some bullshit, or, for the same reason we don't carry house brands. But what's the process of, educating bud tenders and making sure they know, like, this is how we're doing it, and this is why our flower is superior?
Yeah, no, it's really just about getting out there, like, like grassroots style, just going to all the stores, scheduling bud tender trainings, getting all the bud tender samples, so that they can actually try the product. And it's really like, we just have to go to the store. Like, my business partner has gone to almost every store that we're in. I think he's been to every single one. And
That's dope.
Yeah. And so, like, finally we finally have a a sales rep that's actually going to be getting to all of our stores regularly, to actually, help engage more with the bud tenders, to try to just like let them know, hey, are you new? Do you know that we're on the shelf? To actually, if they can give them samples. It's just tough. It's one of the most important things is to be able to connect with the bud tenders, because they are the end person selling our product to the consumer. And so, we really try to provide as much education about our brand as possible. And so like we're putting out a lot of content on our YouTube, just about like, our cultivation practices and like how we do things. And yeah, it's really just about trying to connect with them, trying to get some FaceTime to actually, let them know about our brand, get them to try the product, and then, just like let them know that we really care so much. We're all about like just producing elite quality flower, in a sustainable way. We're really trying to be sustainable about it as well. And like all of our plastic, the joint tubes, the jar lids, they're all reclaimed ocean plastic. And so we're really trying to, push that sustainability, even though we're indoors. We know we're using a lot of electricity, but we're trying to be as sustainable as possible, and while producing, elite quality flower.
No, cool. And I think, a common theme, I think, for the ones that don't have the big marketing budget is once you get them, and this is our general philosophy as a retailer, once you get the customers, you want to keep them coming back, and you want to be able to retain them. And at the end of the day, only the product, could really do that. Let me ask you a little bit about the social media. I like to have a little fun with it myself, but I see you guys out there, doing your thing. Actually, you're one of the first ones to pop up on my feed for whatever reason, probably because I'm engaging it. Yeah. I'm always like, yeah, I fucking been there. How do you go about, it seems like it's pretty much daily or semi-daily, content for whatever reason. I won't do it every weekend, and sometimes I'll take them off, and I try to keep it spontaneous, but there is like a little rhythm to it. I think that if you do something daily, it will, I think, bring it forward for whatever reason. I still don't understand it. Even though you're shadow banned, I'm not shadow banned in the weed community. I can't quite figure out how that whole thing works, but tell us a little bit about the social media and the Instagram and just, the fun behind that. And, just talking about it real quick before we go on, I always say I could talk shit for free, which is why I like to talk shit. I hope in the end it leads to a good outcome, but how you work your page and, what goes beyond that. To me, it looks real organic and, authentic and, not super produced, which is, kind of, cool to me, but you're getting the message out. So just speak a little bit on how the social media part of it.
Yeah. Another shout out to my partner. He really has kind of pushed our social media, just to, maximize everything that we're able to use. Cause we do get we get threatened with our Instagram getting deleted all the time. And we got to change, we can't spell words properly. All that
W33D.
Yeah, orders with a zero. And so all that, it is super annoying, because we're working so hard to be legal. We're paying the most tax of anybody, and we still can't catch a break from Instagram. And there's so much other bad shit on there. We all, you know what I mean? And so but yeah, with the Instagram, we're really trying to showcase our facility. We're trying to show people how we produce everything, how we make the pre-rolls, how we package all the flour, how we hand trim everything. And, we're really just trying to educate on living soil and how we cultivate and just regenerative agriculture in general.
Right. No, that's cool. And I think that, two things, the authenticity shows through, right? And then, I totally relate to the hookup, W33D. I even don't write cuss words. For whatever reason, if you say them, you seem to get away with them a little better. And then it is a ridiculous. You have organic natural medicine that is better for a lot of people. And look, if you need pharmaceuticals, it's not a knock on that at all, right? But, if you can use natural medicine, I think that's preferable. Organic natural medicine, right? And meanwhile, you got violence and sex and whatever else. And look, I'm a free speecher. I'm not necessarily knocking that. But when you compare the two, somebody who's just promoting natural medicine and, Meanwhile, like, they're basically selling speed pills on the same, I saw a new one coming up and I was like, oh, what's this? Some other, because you'll see the ads. Yeah. I'm always curious. So I forget what they call it, whatever, but like, that's fine. Right. And whatever, if you need it, fine. I'm not knocking it, just however you live your life. But, that's, super frustrating when all you're trying to do is promote natural medicine. And we've developed this little code so that we're not getting taken down. And then the other part that's frustrating is it's hater driven. So the better you do, the more, when I get clipped on my page, I try to be a half full guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, they took it down. Oh no. Then we've been able to retrieve most of them, a lot of the store pages, but it usually is hater driven, which seems a stupid way for them to do it. And Twitter's opened it up, but it seems like the audience for now, and I've been fiddling with that, is on the IG. But I think it's cool you guys are out there educating, just doing it. Let me talk a little bit about the distribution and the AR. I know that's a big problem out there that people are having. So, how do you distribute your product? What's the process of that? A little bit talking off camera. It seems like there's been a couple distributors or whatever. And then, have you had any AR issues that you've had to deal with? And then how do you decide, like, okay, I'll give this motherfucker terms, your COD, like, how do you work that out so you don't get burned?
Yeah, it's, it's tough. Like, pretty much, most of the shops that we work with are pretty good. Sometimes, shops take time, a little more time than others to pay, but, it's tough. For a small brand, like, you can't really go into a place demanding a lot of things, especially in the beginning, because then nobody wants to carry you. And so, for us, we've had to extend terms pretty much to most people, and most of the time everyone's good, especially if they meet us, we go meet the owner, if we can, depending on the type of shop. But it's just one of those tough things. Like, you're kind of going on some faith in the beginning when you enter into a shop relationship, and oftentimes you try not to start with a massive order, to
right.
make sure that they're paying.
Right.
And so that's all that we can really do. And if there is a shop that, ends up having a major issue, we'll just never work with them again. And, it is what it is.
Speaking of, we opened up with some of the in quotes, blood on the street. So the mistake I think they made, if they had to make that decision, God, I shouldn't probably say this out loud, pay the vendors before you pay the tax man. This is my free advice, right? And, because now you end up in this cycle. First of all, I think it's immoral and wrong. You sold the product, right? And if somebody's jammed up and they're 4 or 5 days late, that's different than like, I'm just not going to pay you, or you sucked out all the money in salaries and you didn't pay. But then you see these shops, so there's some big chains that fell into it where they didn't pay. So now they're either COD or people don't want to, fuck with them. Let me ask you a little bit about the distribution. So who do you use for distribution, and how does that work? And then, you maybe switched a few times. Give me a little history behind that, because, the distribution thing, and I was looking at a thing today, maybe trying to optimize our own internal systems, because it's kind of nice. We got one drop, but we're running an analog, but it makes it easy, and we are saving money. But it could be like anything else we do, improved upon. And that's why I talk to March and Ash about some of the solutions they use. And, again, you shouted them out, I'll shout them out. No problem with it. In the end, a good, legal, healthy market, which I think of almost any retailer out there that I interact with that's of scale, they take good care of their people, and they're fighting for a good, legal, healthy market. Maybe a little stylistically different, but anytime we've been in the same room, we see eye to eye on the big issues. There may be a little more subtle with their approach, but how did you choose your distribution? And if you moved off it, what's that process? And then how do you get into all the doors? Because it is a difficult thing. Distributors are going under. They're also a problem with the AR. And then there's a markup and all that. So, how does that, process, how are you dealing with that process?
Yeah, it's like, I think distribution in any business is probably one of the toughest things to tackle. If you can't go 100% direct to consumer, like, in certain online businesses. But We use Rookley. I know you're familiar with them.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I think, you know what, man? Based on what I'm hearing, and I know them a little bit, I think they got a fucking good model.
Yeah. No, they've been really solid. We definitely like working with them. And it's just been, distribution's been like the toughest thing in the beginning is like, often like in the beginning, it's just like, oh, like maybe a shop gives us a reference of someone that they know who's a distributor, or some guy has a friend who has a distribution license. And in the beginning, there was just so many distributors, like in 2020, and there were just a lot of small distribution licenses that just got them. They were trying to kind of figure out, can we make water hash? Can we distribute this? Can we do that? And a lot of them went under. And so we've just, worked with a couple that, we had to move on from, don't want to really go there, but, but yeah. And so, now, what we have is we utilize a last mile distribution model. So we package the product, so we cultivate the product, we harvest, we dry it, we trim it, we package it, we get it into the final form, and then we get it to our distributor, and then it has to get tested, and then at that point, then it can then it's available for sale to the retail shop. And so like the biggest problem is that the licensing model in California doesn't allow a small cultivator to a tiny cultivator should be allowed to self-distribute, because 100%. Like there, and it's just a flawed model. It's under the assumption that the state has that a distribution license is going to be more trustworthy than a cultivation license, because so it goes from one place to another. You know what I mean? Right. And that it has to get pulled for testing from the distribution license. Right. But we could have a distribution license if we have the space. Right. It's just another license that you have to have. And so that is something that is hurting really small cultivators. No, 100%. And that was, as we scaled, it was just too hard to have all the traffic and everything going through. So, we're lucky enough to have done it. We don't do it well, but because we only do it, and I don't mean that as a knock to anybody that works over there, it's just our own systems are not in place. They're doing a great job with the analog that we've basically handed them, but because it's within our own footprint, we get away with it a little bit. Let me ask you about we had Nick on from Cold Fire. The cult leader, give him a shout out. Definitely, I think as good a product. I'm not a big fan of saying best. Oh yeah, no, these are the best. These are the best cartridges on the market, hands down. Hands down. We're doing some awesome stuff with Cold Fire. We got a lot of collabs going on. I've been working with them for a long time, and Nick's my dog. Those guys are awesome, and it really is just like the true essence of the plant, like the extracts that we're doing with Cold Fire. When you smell the plant when you are harvesting it, and you can almost taste like the terps of a fresh plant. That's exactly what a Cold Fire cartridge tastes like. Well, so he kind of talked about some of his process, and look, I don't have the most perfect palate in the world, but what I do know is if Nick is gonna, partner up and collab with somebody, to me, that's about as big a cosign as you can get with an indoor farmer. I think it says your product is fucking good. It has flavor, and that flavor is going to extract out. And then B, I think it's important to him as it is to us. And look, we have to be a little bit more diverse with our choices, because customers want what they want. But at the end of the day, I think those are two big, getting that endorsement, which is basically being able to do a collab, is really cool. I'm just curious. So he comes in and he described it a little bit, but I want to hear it from the grower side. So he rolls in there. He's like, yo, it sounds like you guys are a little more familiar, but he rolls in, he wants to do it. He's definitely smoking some of that flower first. Oh yeah. And given his opinion, right? Oh, totally. Yeah. Does he ever, not in a bad way? Because the way he described it is, hey, the flavor has to translate. So even if it's really good flower, in his mind, I think there's an extra little process that it has to be able to translate into a juice cart. So let's say he smokes a few flavors. How does
when he's talking to you, like, how does that interaction work? Or does he be like, this one's going to work or this one doesn't work? Just to look curious how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, like for our collabs specifically, we're like on our production strains, we're really only growing, like strains that we have selected that are really good strains. And so in terms of like picking and stuff, it's like when we pheno hunt, I'll be testing strains with Nick, just like new flower that we're hunting, just to actually see, just to smoke it, just to try it, just to actually see like these different phenos, because we do a lot of pheno hunting to find new genetics. And I mean, a lot of them are not winners, but it's not that, we're like we're looking at it on the flower end, like, is this flower going to be a great plant to grow, to cultivate? Are we going to want to put it in one of our jars? Because everything that we're going to be putting in our jars is stuff that we truly think is really, really high quality flower.
Yeah. And it does seem like maybe is there a differential between just because it's good flower doesn't necessarily mean it will become good juice?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Like for our farm specifically, like a lot of our flavors translate well. If it's like an undesirable terpene profile on the flower, it's probably going to be undesirable right. on the extract side. But like Mimosa or Jack the Ripper, like these translate super well into a juice cartridge. And so, thankfully we haven't really like had anything that, I would say is like, oh, I don't love that terp profile. Like I like some more than others for sure. And each terpene profile has its time of day. Like for our flavors specifically, like all of them translate well.
Oh, that's cool. And then he said something that's rare, and I think you could say the same thing. And this is not a judgment on anybody out there. If survival requires you to backdoor, it requires you to backdoor. The system is broken. Everybody needs let a little gas out. Again, also mad love for homies that we know on the black market that are doing their thing. Hopefully one day we could turn this into one market. I always say it is one market with two different tax structures. They do work together. They do work together like in this weird way. Like, in 2019, when there was a supply shortage, there was inversion going on because the legal market was short on supply, right? So it finds that equilibrium. And then, now there's, it's not a big secret. I just want to be careful that I'm not putting too much out there, but there is this burner distribution issue going on. And at the end of the day, Nick came on here and he confidently said, all my products white market, motherfucker. He didn't quite say it like that.
Right.
So, I think I'll let you make the claim, but it sounds like a claim, just from knowing you and knowing your product and being right size, that you're one of those rare guys that could say, my product's all white market, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, 100%. All No Till Kings product we only sell on the legal market. Everything we produce is licensed. It only goes in our packaging. Like we don't even wholesale bulk flower anymore. And so it's like every single thing we know exactly where that eighth is going, and that's why we don't even run like production, or like we don't even do a large run of a strain that we're not sure about yet. When we're pheno hunting, we're growing one plant to test it out, and to see the terpene profile, and like you said, that's no hate to anyone that's doing it. Everyone was in the gray market at one point, and it's the state that has really made the licensing structure too challenging for many people, and they've left it up to the cities to either allow it or not allow it, that just causes major problems. If there's a whole city that people are trying to cultivate or distribute or whatever, and they just flat out ban it, it's obviously going to go to the black market.
Right. And then, the other thing that kind of happened, and, everybody knows about the loophole that went through it where they did unlimited tier 2 licenses at the state. And then the Emerald Triangle, what they did, because they realized like, hey, we just can't go unlimited. Let's diversify it, keep the craft farmers going. And they limited most guys to 1 acre, right? Whereas in a few counties, if you would have told me that, Santa Barbara County or wherever they're growing up there, Salinas, is going to be by far smashing because of scale, the Emerald Triangle, and a lot, we do have definitely a little bit of shelf from the Emerald Triangle. I've been talking to staff about reaching out more, trying to, bring in some more Humboldt brands and stuff. But the the local control not only affects bans and creates a black market, but what it did is it created an uneven playing field. And then, I don't want to get too deep into the glass house thing, but, my beef with that is, among a lot of things. And I do think it's a symptom of the bigger problem. Like, I'm not just hating on, well, maybe I am, them specifically. It's pretty hard to make that claim. But nonetheless, like, you're going to add another 1 million feet of canopy, whereas guys that are doing it right are right sizing it. So let's talk a little bit about your canopy. You got that whole, I haven't been there since you guys were kind of working yourselves to get it all built out. Is that whole place rocking?
Yeah. So all our rooms are going now. We got 4 flower rooms. We started with 2. And so we built out the rest of them, and we've switched everything to LEDs as well, just to try to save power, try to be a little more sustainable, and not have to replace bulbs and all that. But yeah, we got everything built out. We're trying to dial in our schedule. We're trying to run a lot more strains. We've got a lot of new phenos that we're hunting right now. And, it's just a challenge trying to get new strains into production. It can take, a whole year to get a new pheno into production. We're trying to cut that time down by just growing more moms of the phenos. And so, it's just a challenge. We're trying to maximize what we're able to farm in living soil, in the facility, and just trying to get the schedule right for all the different strains. Yeah.
So, any plans to a second facility online as the demand is getting there? I see you guys, making moves, rising up a little bit, and then, again, people playing it totally straight up, not a judgment at all. The advances get harder, right? And, sometimes you do look and say like, damn, bro, I'm here just battling it out, paying all my fucking tax, and, whatever, we're getting beat up a little bit. But is there plans to get a second facility somewhere down the line, or you guys kind of good where you're at for a while, let things flush out? There is, by the way, speaking of the desert that you brought up earlier, not that anybody really wants to grow out there per se right now that's from LA. There's fucking facilities everywhere available. Yeah. People are, walking away from facilities. They cut corners, maybe didn't have a quality product. Any plans to expand beyond that building, and bring on another facility, or, in the near future, or just kind of sitting on that one for a while and letting things kind of see how things go?
Yeah, no plans currently. We really got to kind of maximize like what we're able to produce at this facility. And maybe one day if the demand grows, I think a greenhouse, like a large greenhouse, would definitely be of interest. Just to really utilize the sun, and to be able to utilize regenerative agriculture and the sun would be pretty cool. But yeah, no plans. We're super small right now, and it's just tough to scale any type of cultivation business. And I think every different brand that's doing it is kind of learning the challenges along the way.
Yeah, and look, I think sometimes, take Long Beach. You guys are operating in Long Beach. You got to pay your canopy tax. I'm sure it's if you want to say what.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing with the city right now because we got the adult use and the medical. So yeah, I don't want to go into all the ballpark tax. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I mean, it's like 16 to 35 grand a year, I'd say, with the adult use as well.
Yeah. So like that's who we're taxing, right? Young entrepreneurs. Been working since he's a young man, 26 years old, everything we should be uplifting, right? And like whatever we fucking waste money on in the city of Long Beach is fucking crazy. Between the 57 million in overtime, between we spent 80 million to resolve the homeless crisis, and like your ideas are terrible and they're getting nowhere. And here we have an entrepreneur that, whatever it be, 40, 50, 60 grand on that facility, that money could go to a lot of good. Somebody that's actually working, 12, 14-hour days that has ROI. And meanwhile, the cities are just fucking flushing it. And then, you look around Long Beach, and I met a lot of the guys, Winter Circles has a facility, These are guys that have been incarcerated for weed, been in there. You got Fresh Baked, who's moving their facility. They're going to rebrand it. Bobby KRD. He is motherfucking Fresh Baked, by the way. If there's any questions out there over the little divorce, he's coming back. He's got a facility. They moved. You got Wonder Brett, super cool dude. You got Clone Guy. Shout out to Clone Guy. To him and his family. This is all family-owned business. For Bobby, they're going to be KRD. I always want to say Fresh Baked, family-owned business. Two young entrepreneurs. You are taking money out of their pocket that is an infinitesimal amount of money, yet you'll pass a budgetary item to like kick down your homies and your spouse. This one's going to get me in trouble. Just fake jobs, right? And it's just super frustrating to watch the way they spend money. And then really like it's legal, but morally to me, it's, stealing. And why, like, the passion gets manifested as anger because you meet people. You look your workers in the eye every day. You wish you could pay them more money, but you got to keep advancing. Then the entrepreneurs that are behind these businesses. And, these aren't like this idea that we're some, there are a few chatty fucks out there that are actually dropping out now, which is kind of fun. I feel bad for the workers, but I'd be lying if I say I don't enjoy watching the ticker MSO Chads fucking drop out the game. But confiscating money from those businesses to me is immoral. And then giving it basically what they're doing to, police and fire who are already making between $250,000 and $400,000 and just pissing it away in overtime or whatever we spent $80 million on homelessness, like it's fucking nothing. And these are businesses. If we're pro business, we're pro people that might not necessarily fit in a box, but these are people that are fucking working, right? That are really putting in the work, that are doing everything they can. And their, properties essentially being confiscated. So that's my little rant again. But to me, when we're doing the tour and just, trying to get to know more about the growers that are local, Long Beach from LBC, born and raised, always going to be repping that as, our headquarters. We love all the cities we're in. We try to uplift the communities. At the end of the day, you get even more pissed off when you know the people. And, for me, it's always been a challenge. Like, look, whatever, I have my platform, I say my thing, but getting these stories out here and understanding who's being taxed is important, right? And I think your story, more than anybody, from where I saw where you were in the middle of the battle to where you've taken it, first of all, my hats are off to you. Again, a super good following on our shelf and being able to like muscle it through to that next step. Let me talk a little bit about skate culture, because I think that's part of it. And I know you guys are come from the skate culture. By the way, not a good skateboarder, but shout out to the skate culture. Boo Johnson dropped the product, actually pretty good. I was like gonna try to go down Wanapero Beach, and then I was like, I'll probably just hurt myself. But talk a little bit about growing up as a skater and how that kind of played into the the weed culture a little bit.
I've just been skating my whole life. That's kind of how my business partner and I met. We met in 5th grade, and we've just been skating our whole lives. And for me, I don't know if I guess I always like to have like a creature board that had like the weed leaves on it and stuff. And so I think like there is like a lot of kind of weed culture embedded in skateboarding on some side of it, because then it's also like a kid friendly sport too.
Right. No,
so but yeah, it's especially growing up at the skate park, like riding around, I always would smell weed, but I didn't. Now I know what it was. Because you'd be 10 years old riding around at a skate park, at a sketchy park maybe, and there'd be like some group in the corner smoking weed, and you knew they were doing something that like you probably shouldn't do right now.
Right. No, I think it will be interesting, raising my kids, and then being a first step, kind of being open with them about smoking cannabis. And then, I don't blow the smoke in their face or whatever, but if they're walking around the house and I'm smoking weed, I'm trying to get into this zone. There's a little bit, kind of its own tangent where like, why should I be so, I'm not doing anything that is sketchy, that is bad, for my kids. So I'm super curious, this next generation that's growing up, right? Whatever, let's say they kind of formally legalized it in 2016. So that puts my daughter at 7. That puts my, son at, barely, born yet. Right. And, I'm hoping that they grow up and it's not as stigmatized. And even today,
Totally.
like if you go to a little party and, whatever with the parents and, the weed smokers, like you could drink, their wine out in public or whatever. You could slam whiskey in front of your kid. Nobody thinks it's weird. You even get a little faded, have 8 Budweisers. You take a couple bong rips, like there's still that little thing. And I'm curious if this generation, because maybe they grew up a little bit more with it. And like, look, I'm not trying to flaunt it, but at the same time, there is a part of me, like morally, that feels like, hey, I need to smoke a little weed, like not right in front of them, near my kids. So it's not something that, by the way, can I get in trouble for saying that? But I think it's an important thing. Like whatever, I was at the LAFC game. Shout out to the 3252. Had a lot of fun. There's this smoking weed over there, and I got somebody's son with me who I know wouldn't care, and then my son's there, and they're passing joints. Like I'm not gonna not smoke a joint because my kid is there. And I think as they get older, they'll understand like, all right, it's not a big thing. And I've had the conversation with them. Hey, look, when you're 18, you'll be able to make your own decisions. But the truth is, if you're being honest about, look, I think do whatever the fuck you want if you're not affecting anybody's life. But if you're being honest with your kids, what's better for you, cannabis or alcohol? Then it's not even a close comparison. So like, as soon as my kid's of age, I would prefer that he, be a cannabis smoker than a heavy drinker, right?
Totally.
And that's just,
absolutely.
I think something that's important. And, we'll see, obviously when I was growing up, 215 passed when I was about 18. It was actually the first time I could vote, got high as fuck, fucking wrote it in. But it was never like full, it was always kind of that little underlying thing. So I'm curious to see, how this generation will do it. And then, even the guys that work with us, I'd say probably, we have an official policy. This is actually a question I'll throw back to you. That's like, I think there's a policy somewhere that says like, don't come high or whatever. But like the real policy is like, just handle your shit. Right.
Yeah.
And then, like even within HQ, walking back to go to the bathroom and, it's 2 dabs being broke off in the back. I don't give a fuck at all, right? Just handle your workload. That's it. And there's plenty of people like it's their medicine. And so we have no problem like, antidepressants, Adderall, whatever people are taking, to get through their day that they feel like puts them at their optimal, sorry, I'm banging microphones, their optimal level. It's a little different when you're, well, and that's the other thing, like, keep it fucking off site, right? Don't be
right.
Because we got a license at risk, right?
Exactly.
But, how do you feel about your workforce consuming cannabis and like, what's your general policy if you have one, around that, or is it just
I mean, we like all of our people love cannabis. You really have to love cannabis to work at a cultivation facility. And so I really try to hook up our people as much as possible. I try to give them samples all the time to trial the product, especially when we're pheno hunting, to help us hunt the phenos. And we work a lot, we're there, harvesting, trimming, packaging, everything, from like 7 to 5. So it's like a long work day. And obviously there's no consumption on site. That's just like stated from the beginning. And after that, I mean, it's
get off the fucking camera.
Yeah.
Get down far enough away. Get the fuck off the,
it's one of those things like, I don't want people to be like super baked, but they also don't want to like, nobody wants to not be able to, at least do their job properly. But it's just tough, like we're not like it's super relaxed. Like it's not even like, it's not something we even have to talk about really. Right. Like at the facility, because everyone's just like on their shit, and so.
No, exactly. And I think that's like every once in a while they'll be like, come on, bro. Like,
right. Yeah. And if there's something like, if something egregious happens, we'll have to address it, obviously.
But then I think it's super unique to the person, I only really, generally, unless it's the weekend, smoke at night, just because I like to be on that edge and son people up if I need to be and whatever. And then when I'm home relaxing, kind of trying to be creative, think about what we're going to do the next day. That's kind of when I unwind it. Plenty of people that swear by, they'll fucking, their cup of coffee is a dab in the morning, right? But they're handling their shit like, who am I to say like, what it is or whatnot. And again, I don't know why we've put all these other things in a category of medicine that's, not a
Right.
big deal. And then little by little, I do think it's, unwinding. And I won't say where, because I might give the person away, but I do know different people that work at, different jobs where like maybe it's frowned on a little bit because there's this, but again, to me, the impairment thing is like, it's very arbitrary, right? And
Yeah.
so, and then for the bud tenders, I probably shouldn't co-sign this too much, but I will. Like, it's the only job interview, and like now I'm doing like we're gonna open Watsonville on the 3rd, so I'll probably try to do it a little more in a group. But I try to get to know everybody I can. It's getting a little bit harder, but it really is the only job interview where when you say, "Do you smoke a lot of weed?"
Yeah.
you want them to say yes,
Exactly.
right?
Like you want like, oh, do you like rolling up joints? Well, what's your preferred method? And so, it's like, yeah. That's definitely something we ask, when we're interviewing people.
Well, because we'll get, you kind of need to know a little bit of everything. So you do the interview, they only know flower, and it's like, all right, you need to get gamed up on
Totally.
on the rest of it, right? And so it's interesting. And then look, you want them trying all the products because if they're recommending them, you want them to stand on it. You want their knowledge to be fresh. I mean, one of the best things that we do have in our toolkit is hopefully the knowledge of our bud tenders. And what would, we do a lot of different training stuff. In fact, we're getting a little better at it. Like our old school method was like, just go shadow this guy, right? But that doesn't work real well when like, you're starting to hire people in Watsonville or Daly City or Patterson, right? So we kind of had to put together a training manual from scratch. But we do a decent job, I think, of like getting the basics down. But one of my ideas, for this podcast is to cut out like the best clips of all the brands we really like, going on for like a minute and a half or 2-minute clips because everybody's got short attention spans. There'll be a lot of them. And that itself is like a video that's a training manual that we, give our bud tenders. So like if they didn't have time to, watch a whole hour, it would be cool. And Nate does a good job of editing it up. Darren, we just dropped the edit of him, like taking all those cool little parts and boom. Okay. So now I understand this product. I know who's behind it. Nick and Steve from Team Elite, you likewise. That to me would be a pretty cool training manual that might be more valuable than like are they wearing I don't even know what the fuck our uniforms are. This is the joke I always make. Are they wearing their uniforms right? Yes, we promote good cash counting, but like you're off $1, like whatever. But if you know the fucking product, and I'm not a big fan of the hard sell, it's like, but the educational sell also works. And then like, hey, you like this, maybe you're gonna, want to try this. Let's talk a little bit about, so you're more the cultivation side, the partner's more I know you're both in the garden. And look, I think there's a tendency for cultivators just because the way the culture developed and, it was underground. And if you like plants, you might not necessarily like people that much. So there's a little bit of a correlation there. How is it getting out of the garden? And like, do you find that enjoyable or different? Do you prefer to be around plants and your own crew or, how does that work?
Yeah, it's it's one of the more challenging things is like just like how do I use my time and basically, I try to be in the garden as much as possible. I'm at our facility, 5 to 7 days a week, and I'm actually trying to get back in the garden more because over the last couple of years, we've just been working so hard to build the business, get the product right, the packaging, the flower, the trim, everything, the pre-rolls. And so I'm really trying to get back in the garden a lot more just to get more, get new phenos out. And like shout out to our team. We've got an awesome team, small team of, 8 people behind us that are really helping us put out some of the highest quality flower.
I think in this game, you can't make it. What's that?
1 hour. You're good.
Oh, it's already an hour? That was fast. Look, I think in this game, if you don't have the passion yourself and you don't have the team around you that's also bought into what you're doing and it's just a paycheck to them, I think that's a big recipe, for failure. One of these days we'll get a clock. Man, that shit went fast too. I could chop it up all day long. Here with Jake from No Till, I just been impressed with the progress. And to me, it's even more impressive. Like They didn't get no fucking seed capital. When I walked into that grow, I was like, yeah, these motherfuckers bootstrapping it. And again, like I said, I got to come back and see all the rooms built out. It's been a while since I've been there, but props to you, man. Just grinding it out, taking the money, going back all in, and making it work basically against all odds. If somebody would have bet that, a 20 and a 21-year-old kid applied for a license in Long Beach, basically bootstrapped probably a little dough from 215 and survived, that's beating every fucking, prognosticator in the game. And as you see people walking away from grows and facilities, especially in the desert, that are just belly up and nobody knows what to do with them. Even facilities in LA and Long Beach are coming open, and No Till Kings is still hitting it. Shout out to you and your crew. And what I'll say to finish, I'm gonna look into this camera and just do a wrap up here. But look, it's super important. We preach culture, we preach industry, we preach uplifting the brands that are the culture, that have overcome the odds. And the only way, by the way, I'm rocking my Beard Bros craft over corporate shirt today. It is Beard Bros Thursday. Maybe we'll drop this on Thursday. Shout out to the homies from there. But I always say, and I said it on the post today, like, you can say whatever you want about the culture and say that you support it, but words are words. The only way you actually can support it, not the only way, but a very important way, is you got to fucking fund it, right? So when you're making those decisions at the register, of course the product has to be there. But at the end of the day, it's super important to know the story behind it. And, I want to talk to our customers and talk to our bud tenders and say, look, this right here, No Till Kings, unique product, organic, the only indoor certified. I want to give them a shout out, and I hope our bud tenders and our customers are watching. We'll give them a try and then let the product speak for itself. And again, anybody who's surviving is a fucking hero to me. And, all these voices that are out there, I think they need to be heard. I think their stories are super important, not just for policy, but for the consumers, so the consumers can get educated and know what they're buying. So with that, No Till Kings is fucking fire as fuck. And it's definitely weed for the people.